going to converge onto whatever I want to convey in this talk. All right. So pharmacy profession is defined as a profession that encompasses the science and practice of preparing, dispensing, and overseeing the use of medications to ensure optimal patient outcomes. All right, all of us know it. Then pharmacist is would be defined as a health professional who has special training in preparing and dispensing, that is giving out prescription drugs. Pharmacists have been taught how the drugs work, how to use them, and the side effects. Okay, so this is the definition as per the US National Cancer Institute. Now, the World Health Organization and FIP, that is International Pharmaceutical Federation, they define pharmacist role as seven-star pharmacist. Now, many of us do not know about this. Okay, so I just wanted to pinpoint on this. So, pharmacist role is not just that of dispensing medicines. It is actually a seven-star role. Okay, so that means a pharmacist is a caregiver, a communicator, a decision maker, a teacher, a lifelong learner, a leader, and a manager. Okay, so pharmacist has to manage all of these different aspects, not just drug dispensing. So gone are the days when pharmacists were referred only to as drug dispensers, right? So, so I mean, my question is, why does this definition does not include pharmacists do drug design, drug discovery, formulation development, pharmacological and toxicological studies, right? So many of us are from pharmaceutical chemistry, including Dr. V. Alagar Sami, right? So there is nothing mentioned in the definition of pharmacist that pharmacist is involved in drug design and drug discovery. So many of us are from pharmaceutics. Where is formulation development mentioned in the definition? So many of us from pharmacology, pharmacognosy. Where are the pharmacological studies and toxicological studies mentioned in the definition? Right? So pharmacist is essentially a person who gives birth to medicines. Right? Where is this mentioned? Where is this mentioned in the definition by WHO, by USNCI, by FIP? Where is this mentioned in the definition? Right? So the definition of pharmacist should include, okay, because I'm talking to teachers from pharmacy background, so we all should actually resolve, okay, and maybe Professor V. Alagarsami can take a lead on this front, and we all can resolve, right? So definition of pharmacist should include pharmacist is an individual, a healthcare professional who does and knows everything about medicine, starting from drug design, discovery, the formulation studies, toxicological, pharmacological studies, etc., etc. Right? So that is something that should be coming into the definition of pharmacist. All right. So having said that, let us look at the current scenario of pharmacy as a profession, because our EFDP talks about future perspective, right? So before going on to the future, we should take some cognizance of whatever is going on in the current situation in our pharmacy profession in our country, right? So let's talk about this. Pharmacy as a profession in our country has remained behind the curtains, and I hope all of you will 100% agree with me that our profession has remained behind the curtains. Why? Because I just talked about the definition, right? Definition should include pharmacist knows everything from drug design, discovery, formulation development, toxicological, pharmacological studies, etc., etc., right? So if pharmacist is a person who is giving birth to medicines, then why are we remaining behind the curtains? Right? That is something that we all should be kind of bothered about, right? So for that, the real question is, how do we bring out our profession out of the curtains? Correct? So we all are pharmacists. What should we do to bring our profession from behind the curtains to out of the curtains, right? In front of the curtains to the entire world. Everyone should know what is the role of a pharmacist in the healthcare ecosystem, right? So for that, I would propose the following points. Okay, so these I'd already given the disclaimer. These are all my thoughts. Okay, we have to be united. Point number one. Okay, extremely important. Now I know that the EFDP is about future perspectives, and as I have just mentioned, that we have to talk about the current scenario, take cognizance of the things, the problems that we are facing today, so that we can be a better and well-known profession tomorrow, right? So the first point that I want to point out is being united. Now, how does this point matter? Okay. Now, anything that we do, for instance, this is an EFDP. All of us teachers are together on this platform. Okay, united by MNR Educational Trust and College of Pharmacy, Professor V. Alagar Sami and his team, right? So we can resolve that we should be united on all fronts. We have different professional entities in our country. So, for example, we have APTI, Association of Pharmaceutical Teachers of India. We have different industry-related organizations. We have so many different organizations that are dealing with different aspects of pharmacy, community pharmacists, for example. But why don't we come together as a pharmacy, as a profession, as a professional? With and then I'll just talk about the Medical Council of India, MCI, right? So recently, we all have witnessed what a barbaric situation or what barbaric incident happened in Kolkata, right? A female doctor was brutally raped and killed in one of the hospitals, right? A very unfortunate and a barbaric, inhuman incident. Now, what did the doctors do? What did the physicians, the medical practitioners all over the country, what did they do? They stayed united. They came together. Not just doctors of Kolkata, not just doctors of that particular hospital, but not just doctors of West Bengal, but the doctors of the entire country, they came together. Okay? God forbid. l- I mean, no one of us expects that any of such situation happens to any human being. Let that be a pharmacist. But God forbid, if something goes wrong to a pharmacist, a female professional somewhere in our country, what do we do? Are we going to come together? May such a thing not happen to any human being, not just a pharmacist, but not happen to any other human being, right? But if something of this sort happens, what do we do? Are we united enough? No, that won't happen, right? Every pharmacy shop will open the other day. All of us, the teachers, will start teaching the other day. All the students will start coming to college the other day, right? Everything will go on smoothly. Now, that should not happen, right? Anything that goes wrong with our profession, we should be united. Okay, so this is my point, my perspective of things. We should be proud of our profession. We have to be proud of our profession. Okay, I see so many people giving talks, so many pharmacists giving talks nationally, internationally. Very few of them, those numbers can be counted on fingers. Very few of them mention themselves as registered pharmacist. What did I do in my initial my first slide, title slide? I mentioned myself as a registered pharmacist and comma MPharm, comma PhD Tech, right? So we have to be proud of our profession. If we are not, then who would be, right? The point number three and two actually go hand in hand, doing everything that is needed for a profession. For example, I am giving a talk at a national level today, and I have showcased myself as a registered pharmacist. Okay, now I know that all the teachers are pharmacists, registered pharmacists, those who are attending this talk. Okay, a very knowledgeable audience. But someone, say, suppose I was giving a talk on a non-pharmacy stage or podium. Okay, and then there I say the first word that I say that I am Dr. Harish Shashikant Snail Kundaikar, a registered pharmacist. What would those audience do? They will start searching. They'll go to Google. They'll go to all those Chat GPT and other LLMs, and they'll start searching for what is the meaning of pharmacist. Right now, this is what is meant by doing everything that is needed for our profession. Okay, now this is just an example. We can quote so many of such examples, but due to paucity of time, I just have 1 hour 15 minutes to be completing my talk. So I'll just stick to limited examples. Okay, all right. And then point number four, I think the greatest power that we can have as pharmacists is the power of prescription. Okay. Now this legislation, government has been trying to get this legislation of giving pharmacists the power of prescription since many years. But the other healthcare professionals, namely the physicians, they don't want to give up this power of prescription. Why? Because I just mentioned about pharmacy as a profession remains behind the curtains, right? So who is in front of the curtains? We are discovering medicines, right? But who is prescribing medicines? It is the physicians, right? Now, none of us want to be a god, right? We the pharmacists do not want to be gods or referred to as gods. But and definitely again a disclaimer, I do not have anything against any of the physicians, okay? But जब मेहनत हम लोग कर रहे हैं, when we are doing all the hard work behind the curtains, then why don't people recognize who are we? That is the problem, that I want to, talk about. All right. So the moment we get the power of prescription, we'll just then, people will start knowing as to who are pharmacists. Pharmacists are the people who discover drugs, and not just that, and not just dispense drugs, but they also prescribe drugs. Okay. Now this is where the best possible. I think this point number 4 is the best possible thing that can happen to our profession. Okay, so getting the power of prescription is something that I propose is very, very important in today's scenario, because we all know in Western countries what happens. It is the pharmacists who prescribe medicines, correct? So physicians, what they do, what is the role of a physician in Western countries? They just diagnose. And who writes the prescription? Pharmacists. So pharmacists are very highly recognized in their countries. But in our country, we remain behind the curtain. Why? Because we don't have the power of prescription. All right. And point number 5 that I'm going to talk about now is something that I'll be talking about throughout the talk. Okay. And that is startups. Okay. Now, we know now there's something called as AI that is prevalent in today's world, right? There is a boom, there is a bubble that is going on. AI bubble, right? AI boom. What is AI? If I ask anyone, everyone will say artificial intelligence. Okay. But actually, the correct word is ML, machine learning. Okay, machine learning is a scientific technological term for artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence was just coined, out of the air. It is actually assisted intelligence. What is it going to assist? Human intelligence, right? So it is going to assist. Softwares and algorithms were prepared, machines were trained so as to help us, the human beings, in our thinking, right? So that is how artificial intelligence was the term coined. But now, if we ask anyone, everyone will start saying it is artificial intelligence, not assisted intelligence, not machine learning, right? So whatever comes into the trend, becomes the highlight. Everyone starts reading about it, watching videos, and knowing more and more about it, right? Then, how is point number 5 relevant to us? If more and more pharma startups start coming up, then pharmacy again will come from behind the curtains to ahead of the curtains, right? It will come out to the world. People will start searching, "Arey, what is this pharmacy startup? Let me search and understand more things about pharmacy startups," right? So that's the power of point number 5. And this is what I'm going to talk about throughout this particular talk. Okay. And this slide I have taken up on purpose. Okay. Because I'm talking to pharmacy teachers. And we, the teachers, have the power to modify, to alter the future generations. Right. We are in direct contact with our students. If we teach them good things, they will go on to become good teachers, good students, or good future of our country. If we teach them maybe moderate things, they'll become moderate citizens of our country. If we teach them bad things, definitely they'll go on to become bad citizens of our country. No one, I think, I'm very sure, and none of us does that, right? No one teaches the students to be mad. But we have to be talking about the more and more advanced concepts that are coming up. And this slide I've taken up on purpose, okay? So I hope the teachers who are attending will take this into their practice and talk about this to your students. Please talk about this to your students, okay? And then especially talk about this point that I'm going to talk about in the rest of this presentation. So let me just move ahead. All right. So let me now talk about future perspectives for pharmacy profession. Now this is the topic of our FDP, right? Yeah, so I'll be focusing on innovation, entrepreneurship, and startup ecosystem. Okay, so let me start with some of the essential concepts. Okay, so if we have to teach our students, we ourselves should know some of those basic, essential, fundamental concepts. Okay, so the first concept is, what is the difference between invention and innovation? Okay, now all of us are from research. We all have research background, right? During our MPharm and PhD days, what we do is research. So we know what is research. But what research actually is that an invention or is that an innovation? Let me talk about this. Okay. So I'll talk about invention versus innovation. So first, what is invention? Invention is a new solution to a problem or a new way of doing something that has not existed previously. So invention is, in layman's word, something that did not exist on planet Earth, but we have found something new. So that is invention, right? A new solution to a problem, a new way of doing things, or something that has not previously existed. So invention is completely new to everyone, to all the humankind. It is completely new. And but the problem with invention is it involves large costs. Okay, it involves large costs. Now, having talked about invention, let me talk about innovation. Innovation refers to the process of creating something new or improving upon an existing idea or product or service. Okay, so what is innovation? Innovation is the process of creating something new or improving upon an existing idea or product or service. Okay, so invention was something that was completely new on planet Earth. Okay, and it was new to humankind. Request everyone to mute yourselves, please. Okay, so invention is something that is new to humankind. Innovation, request all the participants to please mute yourselves. Madam Vaishali Sawan, can you please mute yourselves?
55.
I'll request the admin, I'll request the host to mute Madam Vaishali Sawan.
Participants, please.
I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. I think I've by mistake muted the admin. Okay, I'll continue with my talk.
Sir, you can continue.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So I was talking about the difference between invention and innovation. So invention is something that is new to humankind, but innovation is something that is already existing. Okay. So it refers to the process of creating something new or improving upon an existing idea or product or service. Something that is already existing, but that needs some kind of tweaking so that it can be brought to a better use to the users, end users, right? So innovation is new and it is needed by many. That is, it creates value. Okay. So invention is new, innovation is also new. Invention may or may not be needed, but innovation is something that is needed by many. Okay, so innovation is something that will create value. Okay, and for invention, large costs are involved. Large amount of capital is needed. But for innovation, little tweaks here and there, little pivoting here and there will help us. So that is that. What does that mean? That means less costs are involved. Okay, so that is the difference between invention and innovation. And just to exemplify, if we have to talk about an example, non-pharmaceutical example, obviously, telephone was an invention, right? Telephone was an invention. But look at the innovation. It is a smartphone. This is a handheld smartphone. So telephone had to be kept in one place. Okay, and it had the dialing pad, and it had a wired line, etc., etc. But smartphone we can just carry in our pockets. And this telephone has been converted to smartphone not just in one day. Okay, it has taken many decades of innovation, the process of creating new improved features in this landline telephone in order to convert it into a smartphone, right? So the first idea was to make this mobile so that we can carry this everywhere we go, right? So in between we had walkie-talkies, right? The wireless phones, and then came the idea of smartphones, mobile phones, and then smartphones, right? So it has all gone through that entire process of innovation. So telephone, what used to happen? We used to only dial numbers and receive numbers, right? So it was used only for communication. But for smartphones, we can use different kinds of apps. We are talking. I'm sitting in Mumbai, in Maharashtra, and audiences all dispersed throughout the different parts of our country. The organizers are from Telangana, Hyderabad, right? And look how we are interacting with each other via app, right? Via an app called Zoom or YouTube, right? So what does that mean? That means this was an invention, this is an innovation, but the entire process of innovation has to take place so as to convert the already existing product or idea or service, whatever it is, into a more useful product. something that has a value and something that is needed by many. Okay, so this is the difference between invention and innovation. Now, let me talk about the concept of entrepreneurship. Okay, now why am I saying entrepreneurship? Why not entrepreneurship? We are Indians, right? We are Indians. Our languages are perfect, but English is not a perfect language. And this word entrepreneurship comes from French language. Okay, so in French they pronounce this en as on. Hence, I'm pronouncing this as entrepreneurship. Okay, so that is the correct way of pronouncing this particular word, entrepreneurship. Okay, so this is a French word. All right. So what does entrepreneurship mean? Entrepreneurship is the process of getting innovation into the market. We have just seen the difference between invention and innovation, and entrepreneurship is getting that innovation into the market. Okay, so it is a process of starting, organizing, and running a new business venture in order to make profit. Okay. Now, no one is going to get into any kind of job or any kind of entrepreneurship opportunity just to do some social service. Yes, there are social entrepreneurship ventures as well, but the primary objective of any entrepreneurship venture is always to create a profit, right? The primary objective of any business venture is always to create a profit, right? So entrepreneurship is getting the innovation into the market, and in the process starting, organizing, and running a new business venture in order to make a profit, right? And then entrepreneurship is something that is new, needed by many, and it generates profits and generates jobs. Full stop. Okay, so we talked about invention that may or may not be needed by many, but it was new. Innovation is something that is new and needed by many. But entrepreneurship is something that is new, needed by many, as well as it is generating profits and generating jobs. Right? So entrepreneurship, as I just mentioned, this is a French word. Okay. And entrepreneur is a person who takes the idea of today and converts it into a business, maybe 1 month down the line, or 1 year down the line, or 10 years down the line. Right. But that idea is to be converted to a business, and that is done by an entrepreneur, right? And an entrepreneur can be anyone. It can be a male, it can be a female. We talk of men, women equality, right? In today's world, gender equality. So it can be a male, a female, or a group of people who can come together and form an entrepreneurial venture, right? Now, having talked about entrepreneurship, because I'm talking to a group of knowledgeable teachers, I also want all the teachers to know about this word called as intrapreneurship. Okay. People talk of entrepreneurship. Everyone knows about entrepreneurship, but very few people know about intrapreneurship. And I want all the teachers who are attending this EFDP to understand the word intrapreneurship. So intrapreneurship is actually a system of allowing an employee to act like an entrepreneur within an organization. Okay. And this definition itself clarifies why I want all the teachers to understand this thing. Okay. The concept, what is the definition? A system, maybe an university, right? That allows an employee, maybe as the teachers, to act as an entrepreneur within an organization. So what does that mean? The moment our university gives us the right to start acting like an entrepreneur inside our university, that is called intrapreneurship. Okay, so we should not just be asking our students, how can we contribute to our nation. One point is obviously we can teach our students the concepts of entrepreneurship. We can teach them, we can guide them, mentor them, right? But the other option is we ourselves can be intrapreneurs, right? We ourselves can be intrapreneurs. So we can start acting like entrepreneurs within our own universities. Okay. And that's the reason why I've taken up this topic. Okay. Chalo, let's go ahead. So what is the criteria for entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship, yani one needs to create value through innovation. Now, whatever innovation that we want to bring to the market, we have to ensure that it has some value, it is creating some value. And that value can be in the form of new product or service or business. Okay. For example, I'll take a non-pharma example because a few of the pharmacy examples we are going to take later on in the talk. So one non-pharma example, just everyone knows Ola and Uber, right? When Ola and Uber they started as apps which are catering to the needs, transport needs of consumers, right? But nowadays, when we open the Ola and Uber apps, what do we find? We have Ola, some delivery of food articles, Uber Eats, right? So what is that delivery of food articles? What is that? They have pivoted into new service. So Ola is a service-based startup, right? Ola and Uber. So they have deviated, they are pivoted on their service. They have started with delivering food. Now, what else? They have started with, previously they used to deal only with cabs. Now they also deal with two-wheelers, right? So they they give two-wheeler services. Now, initially they did not own any of those cabs or two-wheelers. Nowadays they have started producing also two-wheelers, right? Ola Electric, for example, right? So they have started producing or manufacturing two-wheelers. So what is that? But that is pivoting of their own innovation. So what are they doing? They are pivoting, right? So what does one need to ensure? What does an entrepreneur need to ensure? That he or she is going to create value through the innovation, and that value can be in the form of a new product or a new service or a new business. Okay, and then innovation-driven value and an innovation-driven new product or service or business would lead to creation of profits, right? That is the ultimate objective, creation of profits. And once the profits are created, jobs would be created, startups would be created, startups would lead to newer businesses. There would be creation of new products and services. There would be diversification, for which pivoting is the key, right? So all of this would be created once profits are created. And once all of this is created, that will lead to economic boost for our nation. We are nation builders, we are teachers, right? So this creation of profit is going to create jobs, lead to startups, lead to creation of new products and services, diversification, and that is going to boost our nation's economy, right? And that is the reason why government supports startups. So we have Startup India. Okay, that is a organization that is by Government of India, which is supporting all the startups, entrepreneurs, right? The MS Innovation Society is Maharashtra State Innovation Society, the state in which I stay. And then there are innovation societies and many other state government ventures which support those different, startups and entrepreneurs in their different states, or obviously centrally, at the union level, we have Startup India, which is an organization which is going to help or help the entrepreneurs, right? So what will government do? Government will support all of the startups. Why? Because this creation of profits is going to create jobs, create startups, create product services, which will lead to economic boost to our nation, right? So that is what is entrepreneurship, the significance of entrepreneurship. Now, let me quickly talk about the innovation development process. I'm not going to get into the details of it, but I'll quickly brush up a few topics because if at all there is some teacher sitting in the audience and not knowing these important concepts, I just want you all to understand this, okay? So that we all can percolate down this to our students. All right. So this is the process of innovation development. All right. The first step is always ideation. Ideation in a, we have to look into what problems we are facing, right? So what did I do in the beginning of this particular talk? I ideated. How did I ideate? By looking at the current problems, right? How did I ideate for this particular presentation that I have made? I looked at the current problems that we are facing in today's pharmacy setup in our country. And then I went on to the solutions for it. That is the future perspective, right? So ideation is looking at the problems. From ideation, we move on to POC. Is this idea achievable? Whatever idea we have created, is that achievable? So that is done at the lab scale. Then it moves on to prototype. Prototype is how the product will look like. So this basically deals with the design and architectural part of it. So this is basically a look-alike model. It may or may not be a working model. Okay. But then from a prototype, we move on to MVP. MVP is minimum viable product. Minimum viable product. And this is the real working model. Okay, this is the real working model. So prototype may or may not be working, but when it becomes a real working model, it can be called as a minimum viable product. So it will showcase how the basic functions of that particular product will work. And once the minimum viable product is formed, then we start realizing, okay, this has this problem, this has this issue. Then we start addressing those issues and problems. So that is called as pivoting. So we don't have to pause, we have to pivot. So if we had decided to move along this path and there was a problem, we'll move along this path or this path. So that is what this illustration is showing here, right? So that is pivoting. So the first ideation part comes under problem identification. That is step number one of innovation development. Step number two is development of concept or solution. So that comes under proof of concept, POC. Okay. And step number 3, 4, and 5, they come under the step number 3, that is testing and refinement of our concept, of our idea. Okay. So for instance, we start working on some idea, make it to the lab scale, but then we find the prototype and minimum viable product cannot be formed. Then we go back to the idea, we change the idea, we pivot the idea, and then we make a new POC, proof of concept, a new prototype, a new working model. Okay, minimum viable product. Right. So this is how this entire innovation development process works. Okay. And very, very important in this particular process is feedback and validation from the actual end customers, end consumers. Okay. So at every step, we need to take feedback and validate our own ideas. Okay. Whatever idea we started to work with, we can validate with the actual consumer by taking their feedback at each and every step. This is very, very critical and very, very important in any innovation development, in any innovation process. Okay, sure. So now let me go on to, now I have introduced the audience to all those important concepts of innovation. Now I'll go on to the innovation, entrepreneurship and startup ecosystem in pharmacy, and I'll talk about the global and Indian ecosystem scenarios. Okay, which ecosystems? Innovation, entrepreneurship, and startup ecosystem scenarios. All right. So sure. Let's go ahead. So I'll first talk about the Indian ecosystem. Now the health tech sector in India has experienced a period of remarkable expansion. Okay, over the past few years, especially since 2016. Okay, because in 2016, the current central government in 2016 they had brought out the innovation policies. Okay, in 2016, and ever since that particular year, we have seen remarkable expansion, and particularly in the health tech sector. Okay, now how are the startups recognized? How are they registered? They are registered by the Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, that is DPIIT, of Government of India. Okay, the process of registration of any startup is very, very simple. It just takes up of filling up of a form, and then there is a small fees that is to be paid, and that's it. And then the startup is recognized by DPIIT of Government of India as a startup. Okay, and then as of 2024, yani, in the past year, India's healthcare startup network exceeded 10,000 startups, which is almost tenfold increase in 4 years. Yani, in the year 2020 to 24, during the years 2020 to 24, there has been a tenfold increase. Okay, in the number of healthcare related startups, and many of these were pharma and medtech sectors, startups related to pharma and medtech sectors. Now this represents an impressive CAGR of 127% between 2016 to 2023. So prior to 2016, we used to only talk about jobs, how to procure a job. Okay, now 2016 onwards, ever since the startup policy has come up, and the rules and regulations have been framed by the central government. Now everyone talks about startups. Okay, and everyone, all the kids, many of the teachers, many people from the pharma industry also towards they take some gain some experience from the industry and they start pivoting into the startup ecosystem. Okay, so that has led to a 127% increase from what 2016 to 2023 only in the healthcare startups. Okay, and healthcare includes pharma and medtech startups. All right. Now, Department of Pharmaceuticals, that is our own department in the government of India, right? So Department of Pharmaceuticals has launched a scheme for promotion of research and innovation in pharma medtech sector, which is abbreviated as PRIP. Okay, a scheme for promotion, P, research and innovation, I, in pharma and medtech sector, PRIP. And under this scheme, the government has been prioritizing pharmaceutical startups. So, for example, 125 research projects were received by the government under the scheme, and of them, 50 were only related to pharmacy. Okay, so 50 of 125 research projects were related to pharmaceuticals. So just imagine how the startup industry is booming, especially with respect to pharma startups. All right, 127%, right? Yeah. And then the DPIIT has recognized a total of 1,40,000, more than 1,40,000 startups. Okay, of which more than 2,000 only belong to pharmaceutical sector. So of those 1,40,000 startups, more than 2,000 these are the statistics as on 30th of June 2024. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the focus of Indian startup ecosystem. So what are the current startups focusing on? The current startups, Indian startups are focusing on providing online pharmacies, telemedicine platforms for consultation and e-prescriptions, or digital health management tools. Okay, and they are more likely to find even more receptive and expanding audience because we know nowadays we are all tech savvy. We all know use the internet. We all use different social media platforms. Audience is now tech savvy, and that means all of these startups, so online startups, the telemedicine startups, the digital health management startups, they are all having a good audience now, right? So that means that particular startup ecosystem is going to boom because the consumers are there, the audience is there, right? So the Indian startups, they focus mainly on two aspects. The first aspect is service and accessibility. Okay, so for example, we have startups like NetMed, Tata 1mg, Healthify, DocPlexus, PharmEasy, MediBuddy, Orange Health, HealthCart. All of these are Indian startups. Okay, all of these are Indian startups. These are all those 2,147 startups that I was talking about in the previous slide. Okay, so these are all based on service and accessibility. Okay, and then the second type of focus is on innovation and biotech. Now, service and accessibility is the larger percentage. It has the larger percentage share of those more than 2,000 startups, Indian startups. And innovation and biotech, we have quite a few for startups which are focusing on innovation and biotech. For example, Bharat Biotech. Who can forget Bharat Biotech? COVID, right? Bharat Biotech was one of the startups which brought pharmacy into the limelight, biotech into the limelight in the COVID era, right? Why? Because they produced those vaccines, right, that were distributed not just in India but all throughout the world. Then Strand Life Sciences, Pandorum Technologies, Code Life Sciences, YM Therapeutics, etc. These are all innovation and biotech related startups, and many of them are harbored in Hyderabad. Okay, many of them are harbored in Hyderabad, the place from this EFD, the place from where this EFDP has originated, right? So the focus of the Indian startups is on service and accessibility and innovation and biotech. Okay, and this is something that is a plus point as well as a minus point. Okay, why minus point? Because most of them are talking about service and accessibility. NetMed, Tata MG, many of them, PharmEasy, etc., etc. We know all of them deliver medicines. Now, how many startups should we have that will deliver medicines? Shouldn't we have other kind of startups also, right? So this is what one of our central ministers, Mr. Piyush Goyal, talked about recently in one of his interviews. He said that Indian startups are related only to delivering medicines to the patient, right? Should that be the scenario? No, right? That should not be the scenario. So what I'm trying to say is the focus of Indian startups is service and accessibility and innovation and biotech, but we have to divert the newer startups should divert their attention from service and accessibility to innovation and biotech. That is where the Indian startup ecosystem, the pharma ecosystem will progress. Okay, so that is what I want to point out to the audience. All right, now let us talk about the global startup ecosystem. Sir, can you please confirm if I'm audible? Ravi sir? Ravi sir, or any of the participants, if we can confirm
Yes,
if
sir,
I'm
audible.
audible?
Yes, sir,
Okay, okay.
audible.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope
Sir, you
I'm
are audible, sir. Yes.
yeah, thank you so much. And hope I am doing justice to
Yeah, yes, sir.
making it
Yes,
call
sir.
as a
It's a very informative session.
thank you so much. All right. So I'll just stop my video again and I'll go back to my talk. Yeah. So I've just talked about the focus of the Indian startup ecosystem. Now I'll talk about the focus of the global startup ecosystem. And the global startup ecosystem, they focus more on the use of AI. Okay, artificial intelligence or assisted intelligence or machine learning, whatever we want to call, but they are using more and more of AI. Okay, example. Have a look of at the different focuses that the global startups have. Okay, for example, some of the startups they focus on disease identification. Some of them they focus on drug discovery, manufacturing. Some of them focus on personalized treatment, clinical trial research, radiology, radiotherapy, smart electronic health records, 3D printing of pharmaceuticals, virtual pharmacy assistants. Okay, so these are AI tools that help in the pharmacy, the pharmacy shops that we have. So dispensing of medicines can be helped by virtual pharmacy assistants. Cyber security, many of the pharma companies are spending crores, millions of dollars, crores of rupees on cyber security. Then fraud detection. Okay, cyber security, one of the important parts is fraud detection. Then there is fault detection also. So manufacturing, when the manufacturing is going on, AI tools can also be used in fault detection. For example, blister packing is happening and there is a fault in one of the blisters. The human eye, the human operators may or may not see it, but the AI tools, with the help of scans, would be able to recognize them. Right. So that is how the AI based focus is of the global startups. Now, with this, I'll just like to show one or two videos to the entire audience, and I'll talk about just two of the applications: disease identification and drug discovery and manufacturing. Okay, I'll not talk about the other applications because then the session will go on and on. I'll just talk about 2-3 minute videos. So I've gone through many videos and I've shortlisted 2-3 minute videos, and these are the videos. Okay, and these two are shorts actually. But this one is I think 2 or 3 minutes in length. So I'll just go to the video and I'll just ask the audience to be patient and listening to the and viewing the video very patiently so that we understand how the global startup ecosystem is functioning. Okay, so I'll just stop sharing and I'll start the sharing of my browser. Okay, so I'll go to my browser. I'll say share, and I hope my browser is visible to the audience. All right, and there is a reason why is the voice audible to everyone from the video? Is this visible to the audience? If someone can confirm.
Yes, sir.
All right, all right. So I'll just play it. But there is a reason why I've taken up these particular videos, okay? Because I know Professor Alagar Sami is a pharmaceutical chemist like me. Okay, so the second video that I'll be talking about would be dealing with drug discovery. But this first video is about disease detection, how AI tools are used in disease detection. Okay, so let us have a look at this video now. 2 minutes video, okay, 2.5 minutes video.
Breast cancer is the commonest form of cancer that affects women and will affect 1 in 8 women in their lifetime. There's very good evidence that screen-detected breast cancer, that is breast cancer detected before there is a lump that you can feel, has a much better outlook. Women with screen-detected cancer are mostly able to be completely cured and will go on to be long-term survivors. So we really need to improve the way we can diagnose and treat women with breast cancer, and screening is the answer.
Breast screening has played a really important part in improving cancer outcomes across the world. While this is the case, we face a number of challenges in providing screening in an accurate and timely way. One of the most important of those is the availability of specialist staff to look at the mammograms. Breast screening is not offered across many countries, and we're very excited to be involved with this technology to allow access to breast imaging in a screening and symptomatic setting across the world.
At Google Health, we've been developing a set of artificial intelligence tools to help doctors, nurses, and other clinicians provide better healthcare for their patients. At the moment, we're focused on developing a set of these tools to support breast screening. The aim of this work is to improve the consistency of the breast screening program here in the NHS. We've already published research that shows that our technology is as accurate as radiologists in detecting breast cancer. And so our next step is to see how it works in real-world clinical settings. And so we're delighted to be partnering with Imperial College London, Imperial College Healthcare NHS Trust, St George's University Hospitals NHS Foundation Trust, and the Royal Surrey NHS Foundation Trust to undertake this work to ensure that we are building safe, accurate, and equitable tools.
This research is an important step in the long journey to increase access to screening programs available to everyone and advance our goal of saving lives through earlier detection of breast cancer.
All right, so that was a very informative video, right? And what did this video talk about? It talked about the use of AI, okay, AI tools in disease detection. And what disease they are talking about? Breast cancer. Now we know our society is quite conserved. Even in modern age, even as of today, our society is quite conserved. Women do not talk about their problems openly. What if we just have an algorithm, maybe an app or a software that can help them in diagnosing, if they feel if they feel that there is something wrong with themselves, and they can just use an AI based app to check that. Isn't that going to be absolutely wonderful? Yes, right? So this is one example of how AI is being used. Okay, this is an example of how AI is being used. Okay, now another example I'll like to show to the entire audience, and that is about just a minute. I'll just go to that video. Just a moment. Huh? Yeah. So I'll go to these shorts. These are 1 minute shorts. Okay?
Until it's done, we don't believe it. In the year of 1900s, when humans were trying to fly in the air, nobody believed the Wright brothers or anybody who ever dreamt of flying just like an airplane. But today, we can fly from Amsterdam to any part of the world just thanks to that aeroplane. Similarly, in AI in biology, when I today say there is huge scope, there is huge growth, nobody believes because they've never seen it, witnessed it. So here is an example. There is a company called as In Silico Medicine. Now, this company has been a front runner in AI. By 2023, they had multiple AI discovered drugs in clinical trials. Notably, their AI designed drug for idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis reached the phase 2 trials also. In 2024, they have announced a novel target and a preclinical candidate for inflammatory bowel disease, again, all designed with AI. So this is where AI is game-changing drug discovery. See it, believe it, practice it, learn. All the best.
So what is the message here? They have this company, the startup called.
Basically,
Just a
talk
minute.
to all the pharmaceutical.
Yeah. So this guy is Dr. Alex Daveronskov. Okay. And he is the founder of the startup called as In Silico Medicine. And I don't think there is any pharmaceutical medicinal chemist in today's world who does not know about this startup In Silico Medicine. And why do we all know about it? The reason is they have started, whenever we teach our students, we teach that, it takes around 10 to 12 years for one drug to reach the market. But this particular startup, they have revolutionized the use of AI in drug discovery. And what are they doing? They are bringing out medicines in something like 9 to 12 months. Okay, not 9 to 12 years, it is 9 to 12 months. And they're getting those medicines AI design, and then they're getting it into the clinical trials as well. All right, so this guy is the founder and CEO of In Silico Medicine. And I would just like to show one more video and then I'll get back to my presentation. And so I think I'll just get it from my presentation itself. So I think this was EQ. Oh. So I'll take just one more video, 1 minute short, and then I'll go back to the presentation. Okay, now have a look at this video. Seems it's still loading. Yeah. Oh, this is the same video, right? So I'll just mute it because the music is too horrible. Okay.
Pharmaceutical companies to understand how the traditional methods for drug discovery and development work, and then created a blueprint all consisting of really many pieces that we could automate using AI, where the sole problem became possible. And we managed to enter phase 2 human clinical trials now with an AI discovered, AI designed therapeutic.
Did you all just read that? They have discovered 30 other potential medicines. Isn't that awesome? Right? AI-based startup, approximately 30 new molecules they have discovered, and of which many of them are into clinical trials. Okay, one of the drugs that they have brought into the clinical trials has gone into phase 3 clinical trials now within 9 months. Isn't that awesome, right? So I'll just stop sharing and I'll go back to my presentation again. Yeah, so I was here. So can someone please confirm if the presentation is visible again? Can someone please confirm if the presentation is visible? Yeah, okay, thank you. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah. So we have just talked about the global startup ecosystem, right? So they're using, the startups are working on disease identification, drug discovery, all of these different aspects of pharmacy, right? So isn't the global startup ecosystem working on innovation? Yes, they are. And we are more focused on, delivering medicines. And as we had mentioned, right, one of our ministers that I mentioned sometime back, he also mentioned that, right? So we have to move ahead towards innovation. Now that is the future of Indian startups. All right. So what are the key differences between global and Indian ecosystems? Very quickly in the form of a table. Now I had started somewhere around 1:15, and I'll finish off in the next 10 minutes or so. Okay. So please bear with me. Okay. So in this slide, I'll be talking about the key differences between global and Indian ecosystems. Now look at this table. This column talks about the features. This column, second column, talks about the global ecosystem, and Indian ecosystem is talked about in the third column. The innovation focus, global ecosystem, they talk about novelty, whereas we talk about generics. The Indian pharma ecosystem talks mainly about generics because historically we have been very good at generics, right? Then not only novel drugs, they talk about whereas nowadays we have also started focusing on novel drugs and biosimilars. R&D intensity, we know they have very high intensity of R&D, research and development. Whereas in our country, we have lower propensity for R&D. Startup landscape, their startup landscape is very mature, whereas our startup landscape, which has started somewhere in 2016, even before that, startups were there, but people are not knowing about startups. But now people know about startups. Okay. So our ecosystem is rapidly growing ever since 2016 because of government support. Funding sources, they have very robust funding sources. They have government grants, they have venture capitalists, they have private equity partners who pour in funds like anything. Whereas in our country, we have a growing venture capital system, VCs or angel investors, as we call them, right? And then we have, as of now, we have significant government funding and significant government schemes which are there, okay, for the Indian startups. Then regulatory focus, the global ecosystem, the regulatory focus is complex, and it obviously varies from nation to nation. In our country, our regulatory system is evolving, okay, and it is evolving ever since again 2016 to support the innovation and startups. Manufacturing strength, the global ecosystem is strong on innovation and specialized manufacturing, whereas Indian ecosystem is strong on generic drug manufacturing. And our API section is basically growing very rapidly nowadays. Okay, so API based startups are actually the need of the day in our country. Okay, then just a minute, I'll just start the laser. Yeah, then the locking of the talent pool. The global ecosystem has highly specialized international talent pool, whereas our talent pool is a large set of skilled professionals, and these skilled professionals need to be increasingly trained. We have skilled professionals in AI and startup ecosystem, but they need to be increasingly trained, and the focus needs to be on R&D, because our R&D focus is very, very low. Why the other nations are called as developed nations, why the Western countries are called developed countries? Because they focus on R&D. In our country, we do not focus on R&D, and that is one of the reasons we are still a developing nation. Look at the nations around us. Okay, I'm not talking of that other nation which is trying to attack us nowadays. Okay, but I'm talking about China. Why has China grown? Because they have focused on R&D, right? Every other nation which has prospered over the world has focused on R&D, and we the skilled professionals, we ourselves are skilled, right? We are educators. We have to be focused on R&D and on the IIC, on the entrepreneurship ecosystem of our country. And then the key drivers for global ecosystem are scientific breakthroughs, any inventions. Whereas for our country, for our ecosystem, we have affordability, accessibility, government push, local health needs. These are the key drivers. Okay. Now, one of the government system, schemes that has come up is Institutions Innovation Council. As Ravi sir was mentioning in my introduction, I happen to be an innovation ambassador under the auspices of Institutions Innovation Council, right? That is IIC. So that has come up from Ministry of Education Innovation Council. That is one of the important schemes that has come up from the government, and that is fostering the innovation ecosystem in the different universities all throughout our country. Okay, so that is also one of the key drivers, key government push, right? All right. And what do we need to focus on? We need to focus on the talent pool. Why? Because we all are teachers. We are teachers. If we focus on our talent pool that is present in our country, we can be responsible, we should be responsible for the growth and development of our country, right? So that is what we need to, we as teachers, we as educators need to focus on. All right. In conclusion, the global pharmaceutical innovation ecosystem is characterized by high-end research and development of novel therapeutics, whereas the Indian ecosystem is building on its strength as of now in generics and is strategically moving ahead towards greater innovation in drug discovery, biosimilars, supported by government initiatives and growing startup culture. However, both the ecosystems have their unique strengths. They are crucial for global healthcare, with India playing a vital role in ensuring affordability and accessibility of medicines worldwide. We all know about the cost of medicines in some of the developed nations like US and Europe, right? Europe, some of those European nations. Whereas those same medicines in our country, they are absolutely affordable and they are accessible. Why? Because India, as of now, is focusing on generics. So that is how India is playing its vital role. And that is how we are being called as the pharmacy of the world, right? So we educators, we the teachers, we have to play our role in educating our kids, our students, in contributing to our own nation's progress, right? So this is the conclusion. Now I cannot stop here because I have to talk about the theme of the EFDP, right? So let us go ahead, and in the next 2-3 slides, I'll finish off with the future directions for Indian pharma, and then we'll conclude. Okay. So discussion on future directions for Indian pharma. This is the last part of my presentation. All right. So innovation focus should be the future direction. We have just mentioned, global pharma talks about R&D, innovation. So Indian startups should also focus on contributions to new chemical entity development, drug discovery. We should shift focus onto new drug discovery, biosimilars, developing solutions for India-specific challenges. Okay? Some of the challenges are very, very, for our country. They are not relevant for the other parts of the world. So we have to look into those India-specific challenges. Next, we have to focus on startup activity. Obviously, government has focused, and we have to focus even further, we as educators. The Indian pharmaceutical startup ecosystem is growing rapidly with government support, schemes like Startup in India Initiative, promotion, PRIP that we were talking about, promotion of research and innovation in pharma, medtech sector. So these are schemes we should be utilizing. We should be telling our students, we should be teaching our kids about all these schemes so that, they also get enthralled and they are inquisitive about the startups. Okay, and as we know, startups lead to profits and they contribute to the nation's economy, right? So that is how we can contribute. Now The next point that we should talk about, we should focus on, the Indian startup ecosystem should focus on, is digital health integration. Now, globally, the AI-based softwares, AI-based tools are increasingly used in digital health solutions. We should also do that, right? So we have to catch up on increasing adoption of new technologies towards digital health integration. Next, we have to talk of a shift in entrepreneurial focus. So we should, the globally they talk about high risk, high reward ventures. Okay, if they're successful, the rewards would be too high for them, right? We just talked about in silico medicines. In silico medicines, I've heard of Dr. Alex Zoranokov's lectures. I've heard many of his talks on YouTube. I'm a connection with him on LinkedIn, and I always read his post on LinkedIn as well. And he always mentions that when he started, they were struggling for almost like 7 to 8 years, but they did not lose focus. Okay, they were a high risk, high reward company, and their rewards are coming now. Okay, for 6, 7 years, they did not have a single drug in the market. People are asking them, "What are you doing here? What are you doing using AI tools? AI tools in drug discovery? It won't be feasible for you. 6, 7 years, you are earning nothing." But the venture capitalists, angel investors who trusted them, poured capital into their venture, into their startup, and now they're reaping the benefits out of it. Their drugs that they've discovered, AI-based discovered drugs, they're reaching into the clinical trials. Hopefully, we'll have many drugs from there as well as other startups coming up. Okay, so now we have to slowly shift from low risk, high reward ventures to high risk, high reward ventures. Okay, so we have to talk about drug discovery, drug development, API manufacturing, and other related services. For example, let me just put forth many of our teachers who are attending are chemistry related teachers, right? We say that we are the pharmacy of the world, right? Now, tell me, we are the pharmacy of the world because we are manufacturing APIs, right? Now, how do we synthesize the APIs? We start with some starting materials, right? Now, where do those starting materials, those synthons come from? The starting reagents come from? They come from our neighboring countries. Okay. That means someday, if there is, again, as of now, we are into almost a warlike situation, right? Things have been escalated with one of the neighboring countries. But just imagine the other countries on which we are dependent on, and there is some kind of a world war or something that happens. Things are escalated. What happens? Dr. Ganesh, Dr. Akula Ganesh,
Dr. Akula Ganesh, please unmute yourself. Akula Ganesh, mute yourself.
నాకు లీవ్ కావాలంటే నువ్వు చెప్తావా? మరి అట్లయితేనే అవుతుంది, లేకపోతే మీకు లీవ్ దొరకదు, ఎవరికి లీవ్ ఉండదు, లీవ్ శాంక్షన్ ఉండదు.
Akula Ganesh.
నాకే వీక్ అంతా కాకుండా
Sir, Akula Ganesh, sir, please mute yourself.
All right, I'll just continue. Audience, please bear with the other noise.
You continue, sir. I'll try to.
Yeah. So we have to, I was just talking about API manufacturing, right? Yeah. So API manufacturing, we are the pharmacy of the world. We manufacture APIs, give it to the other countries, right? Now, how are we manufacturing APIs? The starting materials come from other countries. What if we are into an escalated situation all over the world? Will the starting materials come in? No. What will happen to India as a pharmacy of the world? Gone, right? Status gone. Correct? So one of the key areas for Indian startups should be API manufacturing, obviously, but starting materials for API that are required, they also should be manufactured. Okay, so Indian startups should also focus on this particular aspect. All the chemistry teachers listening to this talk, I've just given you all an idea. Okay, all right, let's go. Regulatory environment. The Indian regulatory environment is adapting to encourage innovation while ensuring quality. Okay, I'm getting distracted. I'll just Dr. Akula Ganesh. Right.
Sir, Akula Ganesh, please mute yourself, sir. You're disturbing the entire session.
Yeah, so the Indian regulatory environment, it is adapting to encouraging innovation and ensuring quality. And government has placed many schemes in place to streamline these processes, to support research, to support startups. So we should be utilizing all of those schemes and support systems, okay? And funding and investment, very, very important, right? Very important. There are many sources of funding nowadays. In 2016, when the rules and regulations were framed, there were there were not many funding schemes, especially from the government. Venture capitalists were there, yes, angel investors were there, but now we have support from everywhere. We are seeing increased venture capitalist interest in pharmaceutical and healthcare startups. We have increased government schemes to provide financial assistance at various stages. Okay, so the stage at which the startup is, there are various schemes for that. For example, for early stage pharmaceutical ventures, there are schemes which are like SISFS, so Startup India Seed Fund Scheme, and Fund of Funds for Startups, FFS. Okay, so these are supporting the early stage pharmaceutical ventures. Now just imagine, early stage we have different set of grants. Intermediate stage we have a different set of grants and different setup altogether, different policies that have been framed. And then full and final setup also, there are different set of grants. And when I'm using the word grants, what I mean is amount or capital or funds that are given by the government to the startups. And from those funds are to be utilized effectively for startups. Okay. But those funds, even one single rupee does not, we need not give even a one single rupee back to the government. So those are grants. Okay. Who does so many things for anyone? Our government is doing, right? So we should look into such schemes, okay, which fund the startups, which fund the entrepreneurs. We all know that MPharm students and PhD students, they get stipends, right? Do we all know that even entrepreneurs get stipends? Yes, that's true. You heard it right. Even entrepreneurs get stipend. Okay, so there are different schemes for that. So there are so many schemes around, and you should look into those funding and investment options for startups. All right. So yeah, what happened? Yeah. So these are some of the references. I'll just go back a minute. I've just put up all the references here, the important ones. I mean, I could not put up many of those references. Please move here. So this is the slide wherein I'm talking about the few of the important references which have been used for statistics. Okay. I have not put up all the references, but yes, some of those references which are important. For example, 1397. Where does that figure come from? It comes from this report. Okay. Top 10 revolutionary healthcare startups in India. It comes from here. Government of India's press release. So this is Press Information Bureau of India. So this comes from Government of India's website. Okay. And there are many schemes which are mentioned in here. So these are important references which have been used only for statistics. Okay. For the initial part of my talk, I have talked about various different concepts. I have not included all those references here. Otherwise, the number of slides would have gone high. All right. Now, thank you so much, everyone. And all those likes and claps for all of you for hearing my talk since the last, I think, 1 hour, 22 minutes as the clock is showing as of now. And thank you, each one of you, especially the organizers, the organizing team, for inviting me as a resource person for this talk. And that's me, Dr. Harish Hundaikar, Innovation Ambassador, Associate Professor, and Head of the Department for Pharmaceutical Chemistry at DY Patil Deemed to be University School of Pharmacy in Navi Mumbai, signing off. Anyone who wants to stay in touch with me can connect with me via my email address, which is mentioned over here, harish.hundaikar@gmail.com. I also have a very specific YouTube channel, which is Pharmacy and Medicinal Chemistry. So anyone can search for me with the key terms Pharmacy and Medicinal Chemistry @Harish Hundaikar. Okay. So you will end up on this page. And this is my one of my YouTube channels. I run multiple YouTube channels, but this is one of my YouTube channels which deal with medicinal chemistry. Okay. And very soon I'm going to start posting videos related to the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem on this YouTube channel, in addition to medicinal chemistry related videos and organic chemistry and inorganic chemistry related videos. And anyone who wants to get in touch with me can also get in touch with me via LinkedIn. All right, so you can search for Dr. Harish Kundekar. So as I mentioned everywhere that I'm a registered pharmacist, right? So RPH indicates registered pharmacist, and MPharm PhD. So that's my profile name. Okay, when you search for me, my name Harish Kundekar, this is the name that will pop up. Dr. Harish Kundekar, RPH, MPharm PhD. So I mentioned pharmacist everywhere. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I am now open to the question and answer session.
Thank you,
Dr.
sir.
Ravi?
The question was very informative and impressive, sir. You have given an excellent description about the role of pharmacist and importance of pharmacist in our country. We hope the days should come like in abroad. Now the session is open for questionnaire. Dear audience, if you have any questions, please post in the chat box.
I'll be happy to answer any questions. If anyone has a question now, you can ask me now, or maybe you can put it up on the chat box. The organizers can pass on those questions to me. Or if someone wants, obviously you can get in touch with me via email or via LinkedIn. And you can also watch the videos that I post via YouTube.
Anyone has questions, can unmute yourself and ask. Or as like sir said, you can connect to sir through email. Or you can post it in the chat box.
We have 95 participants. That is quite a good number. Congratulations to the organizing team.
Sir, we are also giving it on YouTube.
And I know how difficult it is to organize events. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So there must be a few more participants online, right? Via YouTube.
Some are joined in YouTube also, sir.
Okay. I mean, I have organized many events, international
YouTube live
conferences,
also.
AFDP. So yeah, I realize that it is a very difficult task. And thank you so much, everyone. Alagar Sami, sir, I hope I have done justice to your choice of calling me.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much,
So
sir.
really, we feel happy. We are very happy that you have wonderfully delivered the website, and many have received very well whatever you have given during the last 1 hour, more than 1 hour. I think 1.5 hours you have taken.
Yes.
So and still the participants are remaining. That shows the interest you have created upon the lecture. And on behalf of the MNR College of Pharmacy and on behalf of all the delegates, we thank you, sir, for sparing your valuable time with us. And I hope all the delegates learn much more, and this will be definitely useful for your teaching career, and we can make the profession of pharmacy
Sir, Harish sir, please stop sharing your screen, sir.
Yeah, done.
Served with the eminent speaker like Mr. Harish Kundekar. So on behalf of the organizing team, we would like to present this virtual memento to Dr. Harish for his wonderful time he has spared with us during this FDP. Sir, kindly accept this virtual memento, and we'll post it by courier to you, that is hard copy. So thanks a lot, sir. Thank you for spending your time. Thanks a lot. Kindly accept this certificate and the virtual memento also.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Yeah. All right. So
I think, Madam Dr. Ravi Kumar, you can.
Yes, sir.
You can sign off.
Yes, sir, we can sign off. Thank you, sir. Thank you for all the audience. Tomorrow again, we'll rejoin at after 1 o'clock with another session, new session. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you. Thank you all.